All right. Welcome back to the Mixed Nomad podcast. I believe this is episode 12. Episode 12. We're just kind of burning it up now. We're doing this twice a week thing. It's kind of moving us right along, which, I hope everybody likes it. And once again, now that we're on the YouTube, we're going to say, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the little bell thingy, all that kind of stuff. Comment, all that good kind of stuff. Once again, it's Sean Lowry here, and Ricky is back joining us again.
Thank you,
So I think that, we hit our first milestone on the last podcast we did, because we actually had some people, random people, actually comment on our video. I mean, nothing big, but I just want to say that because of our last conversation, I was doing the thing like the wife turns up missing, and what do you immediately think? And Rick was like, "Oh, what happened to her? What's going on?" And I just want to say that the commentary on the comment on YouTube was, the husband killed her. The husband killed her, fucking for sure.
It was unanimous. Both of you agreed.
Hey, you know what? Listen, I'm just a crazy person. When there's two or more, now it's a consensus.
Yeah, it's a majority.
Yeah, there you go. It's two.
No, by all means, the reason you have me on here is because I think crazy. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, yep. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. But it's good. But either way, I just wanted to say that I'm pleased, and I'm watching the views go up, and I think that's really great. And I hope that somewhere along the lines that people are getting some use out of this, and but please comment on the videos and let us know what you're thinking and how you're feeling about all of it. So we were also talking off camera today about having other people on the podcast and how important that is. So we have some topics we want to bring up, but we also want to hear, once again, we don't want to be in our own little silo. We want other people to be involved and, just put their input in so we can try to come to some kind of better conclusion. I feel like, I'm always saying like the same thing when we come into these. I feel like I'm like, hey, here's what we're trying to do and blah, blah, blah.
It's called the intro.
Well, I'm not talking about. Thanks for that. Thanks.
Yeah, you're doing great. You're nailing it.
Yeah.
You're doing really well.
I also want to say, guess what? On this last one, like, I just want to say that I am upping my game with the video thing. Like, it is, I am, like, you look at like I know I've only done like 5 or 6 of them now, but the first one was very, very plain. I had some audio problems with another one, you know what I mean? But now I have like things fading in and fading out, and I have things zipping up from the bottom. Like, I just want to say, like,
I've been doing video edits and stuff. When I show up to hang out with you, I'll show you how to teleport people into the shots. Like, we'll be sitting at the table and we'll just teleport people in.
Oh, perfect. All right, good.
I'll show you how to do silly special effects and all kinds of people show up.
Good.
Nightcrawler. Like, you can do silly stuff. Trust me. You're going to start doing a little bit, and you're going to dabble, and you're going to see a tutorial video, and you're going to be like, I got to try that. And then now you're going to be like, all right, before we start, I need you to do this and this so I can cut that. And then I'm going to have like an explosion behind you. And then I'm going to do this thing, and sparkles will be all over.
Oh, like, I want fucking sparkles and unicorn dust.
Dude, you'll see. Like,
rainbows shooting out of
after this.
I want rainbows shooting out of unicorns' butts in video.
I'll show you how to do it, dude.
Perfect.
It's funny.
See, because I'm really good at photo editing. That's kind of my gig. But video, this is all new for me. So I hope all of you that are listening bear with me while I'm getting my feet wet, and hopefully by episode 100 or something, I'll actually be worth a shit.
You'll see. I can send you back in my first videos. If you go to Just a Mile a Day and you check out the original videos, like, I'm in the gym that's like echoing terribly with no mic and just the worst camera possible, and there's this dumb angle, and you're like, all right, I can get the message. I see what you're doing. And now, like, I got like boom mics and stuff like that, and it's a completely different game. I do actual effects, and things are cool now. Like, there's sound effects and things. It gets very different. It's
good times.
The more you practice and the more you like build up your stuff, it becomes fun. And I think that goes for just about anything. I think the more that you engulf yourself into trying to learn it and then actually practicing it, it starts changing everything. And that's kind of the foundation for the whole everything is a choice thing. Is if you have a vision or a dream or something you want to achieve, you just engulf yourself in practicing it. You did it with photography, you're doing it now with this.
Right,
And I
right,
believe that
right.
anybody can choose to chase a dream.
Right. And I just want to say, like, on that note, like, I completely, wholeheartedly agree. Like, I completely learned how to be a photographer solely based off of YouTube. YouTube taught me all of it. Like, I start to finish, I learned completely off of YouTube. So I totally agree that you can just pretty much, if you really want to, like, you
My
can make it
entire
happen.
business is from YouTube tutorials. I've taken no classes.
That's fantastic.
And
that's fantastic.
over 150 videos. I've done more than 200 live videos that are more than 30 to an hour.
Wow.
Like I've done hundreds of them, and it's just practice and practice and practice.
I just want to say I'm a fan. I'm your fan now officially.
You watch Shout Out Sundays, or you watch the Jam Fan program.
There you go.
Boom.
And when I actually figure out how to do like links and stuff like that, so that's my goal, is to be able to, like, at some point I'd like to actually put videos up and things going on, like when we're talking about something, be able to bring up a little clip and have little stops in it and things like that.
I'll tell you what program we can use after this. There's one that can do it.
All right, well we'll look into that. But so that's just so,
until they sponsor us, I'm not telling them nothing.
Just so you all know, that's what we have planned, trying to get into make it more enjoyable to watch on YouTube. Obviously we're in separate states, so it's I wish that we could probably do more if we were in the same room, but we just have to work with the magic we got and make that magic all by itself. But okay, so either way, let's get into the topics for today. So the actual topic for today is pretty much like what I was thinking. I feel that our biggest problem right now is that we are so concerned with just arguing about who's right and what happened. And I feel that, like, this comes down to, this is almost, it's like a political narrative as well as, but I feel that it turns into a racial issue because of the political narrative, right? So we're everything is kind of geared up. So we're so busy arguing and fighting with each other over what happened forever ago, or what happened last week. And we're caught up in minutia and stuck in the weeds about individual issues that we're not taking any time to actually go through and figure out, like, what the real issues are, or to even deal with them. We're just so busy blaming each other for what happened, or what could happen or might happen, and we're not dealing with what is happening. Like, we're not actually dealing with the problems at hand. And if it's one thing I absolutely want to say to everybody is, like, really take the time, take a few minutes to actually just listen. I keep saying this over and over and over. Listen to the other side, so that way you can try to find a common ground, common issue, a common narrative. We talked about this before, where I was like if you can find that one piece that you can agree on, you can start working towards something better. And start working out the actual issues. Stop listening to all of the narrative that's going on in the media. Stop listening to what our president, whether you agree with him or not. Stop listening to our president or who could be our president or any of that, and just start listening to the people around you. Start listening to the narrative that's actually being spoken around you, like the real narrative, what people are actually saying, not what people are telling you that you should be listening to. And I think that when you actually start dealing with individuals, like, you'll start finding stepping stones to move things in the right direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a powerful thing with what you're saying too, and we brought it up a lot with even last week. We said the thing I was even mentioning is take the judgment out. Because when you're listening to somebody and you start judging them, you won't hear what it is. But the next thing you will look for is, after you observe or you're listening to what's going on, there's an unmet need that everybody has. And the reason people are upset or angry is there's a need that they have that isn't being met. And part of the interesting thing with listening to somebody talk is what is it that is your unmet need? And this goes for everything in your relationships. This goes for your life. This goes for work. This goes for the people who are talking now. There's something that they believe they need that isn't being met. But instead of just going like, no, I don't like the way you said it. What is the thing? Like, what are you upset about? Or what is the thing? Because there's observation, feeling, need, and then what do they want? What's the request?
Right.
And so
Right.
you observe what's going on with them. I can see that you're feeling really upset or you feel strongly about this. You seem very agitated. What is it that you need? What's the thing that you feel like you need to be able to be okay? And then make the request to say, how do I do that? How can I help you do that?
Well, we'll see. And here's like, so here's, we were talking about this earlier as well. Like, and this is something that I find to be one of my frustrations, right? Especially when dealing with you in particular, Rick, is that you're one of Rick is one of those guys that absolutely, like, he can completely separate himself from like the emotional aspects of things and just push all that aside and say, what is going on right now? What is this? And let's talk about it rationally and let's figure it all out. So the biggest problem that I run into, and then I think that I run into when I'm trying to find solutions for just about anything at this point, is pretty much that, like, how do you, when two people are talking, we can find a rational way to deal with something. Even if emotions get high for a moment, we can bring it back in and figure it all out. But how do we find a solution when you're dealing with a whole lot of unrational people that are like, so like, that'd be great if we all could just sit down and just like, hey, what is it that's really bothering you? What is it that's really going on? That would be then everything we could fix everything tomorrow, right? But the problem is that when you're dealing with a populace that has had enough, that is angry, you know what I mean? Like all the way around. I think that it's hard to find solutions when you're dealing with irrational situations. Like you try hard to bring rationality into that conversation.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And it is tough to be rational with people who are irrational. And if
Right.
you have somebody who has no intention to ever find a resolution, well, you'll be dead in the water anyways.
But
There
okay,
is no way to work with that.
but I think that everybody wants to find a solution. I think they want some, but I think that one of the biggest problems that we're seeing right now is that people they want change, but they don't really know what that looks like, what exactly the thing they're asking for.
Right. If they don't understand their own request, all
Right.
you have is I observe that you are doing things
Right.
and I observe you're very upset about it.
Right.
You have no idea what you need and you're not making any requests, which means there is no way to find any kind of common ground or resolution with somebody who's just angrily breaking things. That's equivalently a temper tantrum.
Whoa,
If you have a
whoa.
kid
See,
who loses
we
cool,
definitely don't want to use terms like temper tantrums when it
well,
comes down
hear me
to
out first.
large.
Hear me
Okay,
out
fair enough.
first.
Fair enough.
Hear me out first. If you just look at it, if you had a child who was angry, you could see they wanted something that they didn't define, and they're pissed and they start breaking things and throwing things and doing bad stuff. Like they're doing things that like this is irrational. And you're like, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? What do you want? What do you want? And they just get angrier and angrier and never tell you what they want. How do you make this person happy? How do you work with someone like this? And that would be by definition, if you saw a kid screaming in the store for no purpose, they would be having a tantrum. That's not a judgment of you're a piece of shit or you're dumb. That's what the action would look like. In which case, as adults, if there is a purpose that's important to you, something that's worth fighting for, something worth making noise for, something worth defending whatever it is you're defending for, it needs to be laser clear. This is what we're doing. This is my purpose.
Okay, but
I
now
have purpose. Now I have a need that I see you need met. If you have a need that needs to be met, what's the request to make it so we can meet that need?
okay, but wouldn't it arguably be like that the reason why they're upset is clear, why they're upset.
Right.
Okay.
So what do you want done?
Right. So that's where I run into that's where we run into a problem with the temper tantrum argument, right? Because by that analogy, we have children that are having a fit, and you don't know why they're having a fit. That would be so we wait, hang on.
It's not why they're having a fit.
So
it's
no,
what do you want?
Right. So we know why they're having a temper tantrum. We know what their reason is. And but here's kind of right. So they are asking for things, right? They are asking for things, but they're unthought out things, right? They're things that haven't been they're things that haven't been polished, right? And it's kind of hard. It'd be like to use your analogy, if we wanted to go back to the kid thing, right? So we have a kid. We know why they're angry, we know what they're angry about, and we agree that there's a reason. Well, like, we're not justifying actions, but we agree that they have a justified reason for being angry. Doesn't necessarily mean that the level they're taking it to, or where they're taking it to, not giving any clear justification to that, right? So let's be very clear with that one. Not saying burning down a building is okay. Not saying hurting somebody or flipping somebody's table over when they're trying to eat is okay, right? No, nobody's saying that. But we're saying we understand why they're angry. We understand that they're justifiably angry for whatever measure, right? Now, well, they're asking for things, but that'd be like a kid asking for, like, well, I'm angry because of this. Now I want I want this here, but it's just very undefined. It's just kind of this weird abstract idea that's like more like a shotgun approach rather than a silver bullet approach, right? And when you shotgun things, it just makes there's a lot of unintended consequences, right? There's a lot of just casualties, a lot of just innate damage going on at that same time. So with that being said, what we're looking for the silver bullets. That's what we want. We want to try to find and how do you bring a silver bullet to a shotgun fight, right? So how do you find the silver bullet out of all of that? And that's what we're trying to figure out. That's what I'm trying to rationalize, because it becomes harder and harder. Like me being more leaning towards the left and more pro, like I am pro Black Lives Matter. You know what I mean? Because I understand what they're trying to say. I understand what I'm not a part of the group, you know what I mean? I'm not a supporter, right? I'm not a member, I guess, or whatever. I believe in the cause. I believe in the cause the same way I believe in breast cancer, right? Or like awareness, right? Like bring awareness to a particular subject for this. It doesn't mean that I am opposed to any of these other things. It just means I understand bringing awareness to this same kind of analogy, that the silver bullet. I believe in this particular cause, right? But with that being said, how do you bring that? How do you take that shotgun and it, like I was saying, it makes it harder for me to like talk with somebody who is very much so against that when there is no silver bullet to discuss, right? If there's no silver bullet to discuss, like when somebody like you, Rick, asks me, well, what do you want? Well, and you're like, well, they're just doing all this stuff, and they're saying they want to, for example, they want to defund the police, or they want, they want everybody to have, get reparations of $100,000 or whatever, just things that just don't make a lot of sense on a whole. Right. And then how can I, as somebody who agrees with the cause and somebody who would be a supporter and is a supporter of the cause, how do I have a conversation with somebody who who is not necessarily opposed to it, but somebody who is willing to listen but doesn't know what exactly, you know what I mean? Doesn't know what it is that's being asked. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out a way to actually say it to somebody who could be an ally. And I've talked on this before too, that you know, like I think that a lot of the actions being taken are alienating people that could be allies, people that would be willing to be allies, but not to not to their own demise, not to the demise of everything else. Like it's how do we include, not how do we like put one group above another. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. So I'm just trying to figure out what that silver bullet is. I don't have the answer for the silver bullet. The only thing I can do is just keep going back to my talking points of things that I feel would help the situation, right? Yeah.
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
Good job. And yeah, you went to a couple of things. I'm gonna go through the points that you have. And you mentioned people right now are being so emotional, right? You said people are being emotional and they're shotgunning their responses. It's just a blah mess that's blowing all over the place, and it's confusing, and people don't know what to grab onto, and it is even turning people off who would be interested in helping. They're
Correct.
like, I don't even know what the hell they're talking about. I don't know what they want.
Right.
So I'm staying out of it.
Right.
When that person would be happy to help.
Right.
So what do you do to define the silver bullet? First off, even as a free thinking person, you do have to, as an individual, if you're at an event where you see people start shotgunning nonsense, it is our own personal human responsibility to say, hey, quit like blame throwing or quit shotgunning all kinds of mess all over the place. We have to get our group together. Like, and that's where leadership comes in. And this is where natural leaders or leaders would need to step up and go, hold on, you're creating more mess than fixing it. I'm on your side, but we have to get better. We have to get stronger. We have to be more focused. And the shotgun approach, we're all, even on this side, agreeing that's not working. Like it's not giving solutions, and nor is it presenting solutions, because we're creating enemies of people who would be friends.
Right.
And that's going to create bigger problems. We do have to, as our leadership in the group, have to be able to define our own silver bullets. And there's multiple, we can go into any category and start narrowing down the thing, because that's the way it needs to be done, because there's too many categories.
Right.
So you can't go like, the police suck, but education's bad, and this thing's bad, and then there's not enough people on the Senate, and there's this thing. It's like, if you start going into too much noise, there's no way to fix any of it.
Right.
But you do have to start at the core, and that's for sure. So how do you have a conversation with somebody who's like that? I think on a relatable level, say, hey, listen, I'm on your side, but we do have to do it in a more focused way, because we're not getting anywhere that way. And there does have to be a realization or an awareness of, this isn't working this way.
Right.
We're doing harm, and doing harm will never get us to be taken seriously or to be respected. This is going to go against our own plan, and that's not going to work. So by doing that, there has to be, like you said, and I think that you're very right, and I talk about this a lot too, there needs to be an awareness level that's happening to go, this way isn't working. We're not getting the results we want.
Right.
This should have easily been like, hey, we do it this way, and then people go, irrefutably, that's the best way to do it. And you're right. What you said was eloquently done correctly. We're creating enemies of allies by people going too far.
Right.
And they're pushing a different narrative than the silver bullet. They're pushing a shotgun narrative of like, everybody's messed up and F this, and getting crazy.
Right.
Which makes people who go like, I would fully support you. I have good friends who are Black people, and I would fully support you, but you're doing things that I don't support.
Right. Right.
And that has nothing to do with them.
Right. Right. And I look at the whole thing, and I just kind of just like, it's hard for me, because it's I have an emotional response to the whole thing. Right. So I have my own stones that I carry. Right. And then if I have that, so it's hard for me to relate that off to somebody else. And I think a lot of people, like, when you're dealing, I mean, you and I have had interactions where my emotions have ran really high, you know what I mean? And it's hard to you're so frustrated and so angry over this subject, right? You want to shake somebody and just like see what I see, you know what I mean? And that becomes hard. So it becomes, how do you articulate that down to become something that is focused and not negative, right? So it's such a delicate, subtle problem, and I think that a lot of people don't really realize that a lot of that what they perceive, and I think you kind of said it, that when you said temper tantrum, right? And even if you didn't, and I get that you're not trying to say that you had a negative, that trying not to say it in a negative connotation, right? But the idea from the outside, I can see how it looks like a temper tantrum. You know what I mean? Like I think that's what a lot of people are seeing, is a temper tantrum, rather than seeing just an outpour of emotions because of the subject. So, and I think the first piece, like I said, the first piece, we talked about this a little bit last week, was like realization, right? So how do you, without the rage, how do you make people see what you're seeing when you are so emotional? What is the thing, when somebody is at this level, right? What is the thing that you would have to see? What is the thing that you would need to see to understand the gravity of it? And with all that emotion, you know what I mean? Like when you have all that emotion all bundled up, how do you relate that to somebody who doesn't understand, who doesn't see it right now?
I think it's a good question of how do you, even if you have this emotion, I think the thing would have to go both ways, is you can still have the emotion or the feeling that you have, but it is important in all communication how we do it. Like the way, and that is, if my goal is, and this is why it always goes to, what is my purpose of the conversation? If my purpose of the conversation is connection, if my purpose of me telling you the thing that has hurt me or that I'm upset about is for you to be able to connect with what I'm saying, so that we can either empathically work on it together, or we can have some sort of a realization together that we can agree that this is wrong. Like if there is that, if somebody has a full out rage, like explosion, it's going to be very difficult to connect. If I approach you with blame, shame, or anger, it's going to be difficult to connect. I can see that you're angry. I don't know what it is that you need. I can just see that you're very angry. And I don't hear a request either. So that's where it would have to change. Because you can have your anger, but right, you do have to be like, here's what I need. Do you see it? And here's what I believe we need to do together to make it better. They have to be able to have those pieces to the puzzle. If not, it really is just the Incredible Hulk tearing through the town. And then you go, I don't know what the fuck to do with the Hulk. I got nothing. He doesn't even speak English. I got nothing.
Right. Yeah, and that's something, like, I think that's super important. That is something that myself, even doing this and everything, is something that I struggle with. I struggle when we start getting down into the brass tacks of it. You know what I mean? I can get caught up myself, and I think I'm a pretty articulate person overall, but I can get caught up in the minutia of just, I don't know, I just want it to change. You know what I mean? It's something has to give. And I understand the anger. I understand the, you know what I mean? Like I get all of it. I've said before, I have found myself, like, I don't get away from it. You know what I mean? Like I'm embedded in it everywhere. I mean, it doesn't matter if I go home, if I go to work, if I go like wherever, like I get it everywhere. I get it with family, you know what I mean? On both sides, you know what I mean? I deal with it all the time. So I get the anger, and really at the end of the day, I kind of just want, I wish I could just sit down like on a stage, like in front of everybody and just kind of, I guess I kind of am, aren't I? and just kind of just go like, really guys? Like, really? You know what I mean? Like that's what I want to do. I just want to sit down and just be like, for real? Like, is this really what we are? Is this really what we do? Have we not evolved at all?
Well, even the question itself provokes defensiveness on that one, even if you're right. As soon as you start asking, like, why are you doing that? Immediately people get on their heels. Like, I like it, or you don't get it, like, so why are we doing this? It does have a heavy tone to it. But if you turn into purpose and saying, is your goal with this method to be the Incredible Hulk and destroy, which the Hulk is not trying to listen, understand, or rationalize? Or are you going to King T'Challa this thing and Black Panther this in the right way? Are you going to handle your stuff like a true like king? Are you going to put your shit together? Or are you going to Incredible Hulk right now? Because your rage monster is not reasonable. But if
Right.
you start stepping up like the king of, like of what you believe in, and you start standing up for what you know is right in the right way, then people will go, I have no choice but to respect you. I respect where you're coming from, and now I can see what's important to you, and now I can see that you have unmet needs, and there's something that, even if it was me or if it was before me, that there's something that we can do about this. Well, now your enemies become your allies.
Well, I think, this kind of leads me into, I agree with you, by the way. But I think this kind of leads in, and I'm going to keep always going back to the biggest thing, the thing that I want to push as much as humanly possible is education. Education is, it means everything. Like it means it changes the dynamics of everything. And everybody, and I like, and this is probably the one common ground that I think that I want to push as much as humanly possible. We prioritize everything in this country, and as far as sports and being famous and whatever, all these things, but we don't prioritize education. Like, we just don't. And I think that if we can all come to the agreement that if we do something about that, like, realize that, let me put it this way. I think if we realize that the powers that be want us all to be fighting over shit like this all the time. Like, I don't care if you're far right leaning, far left leaning. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're white. Like, do we realize that education truly will make a difference? It will change everything from the, and I'm talking about good education. I'm not talking about just like, because there's people in Novi, which is a big, a more upper class city here where I live, right? Like, or Bloomfield, you know what I mean? Like, these places, there's problems there too. Hence why it's always in communities like that where the kid brings the gun to school. Let's just put it that way. You know what I mean? So there's clearly a problem there too. But somebody from the inner city, people of color shouldn't have to, the school of choice myth, that's the best way to go about it. Like, well, if you just open up the schools, this and that. What if about a parent that doesn't have a great car and can't get their kid to that school? You know what I mean? A kid should be able, wherever a kid is at, should have access to the best. Like, we should be putting all of our resources towards that, if nothing else, because even if we want to start at the very basic, that is the long game, right?
I'm gonna jump in on this one.
Yeah.
Yes, education is the big one. Like, that's one of my top three is being able to have education. But I think, again, even just saying education still feels like a shotgun. It still feels like there's a big, broad spectrum of what education means. And that's where you get into sports, you get into extracurriculars, you get into what kind of equipment you have, you get technology, you get into the material used. Like, it's still a shotgun.
But it's all of that.
The one thing that I believe when it starts coming to choice for all people, there's one skill that you get from education that opens your doors to everything. What
What,
skill do you think that is?
I don't know. What is that?
Teaching kids to read.
Well,
If
but
you
okay,
can read, there's a lot of kids right now, and you can look at the numbers that are struggling to even have literacy exams passed.
I understand
If
that.
your kids are struggling to read, you're closing all the doors for them to be able to find any new information for themselves other than a video.
Right. Well, I understand that, but once again, that is a piece of education for sure. But all of that stuff changes. Like I said, that's why education is the long game, right? Education is a thing that it's not really going to fix anything today. They could all of a sudden.
But teaching your kids to read is something you can do in your own home.
Okay, well, yes, I
That's a
completely,
big one.
yeah,
And that's
of
why I
course
say
it
with
is.
literacy exams showing that kids, because you have to go like, what choices do I have? You can't just say, we need $10 trillion for all the schools. Like you can't just say that because it has to go through a whole bunch of stuff before that would ever get passed. And then there's a huge growth period of all of that being applied. So the long game, it would take years before that could, even if that was passed, let's say we got it in the next 2 years, whatever president, it was passed that all the schools will be upgraded to this level, and that's the fact of it. Well, the amount of work it would take to do that would still take a few more years to get completed. So all of the kids in school right now would miss out on a lot of that.
Now, of course it
So
would,
it would,
but once
but
again,
you're right, it needs to be done. But what stuff can we do now that's
okay,
controllable?
right. Well,
I
that
believe huge
that's
emphasis on making sure our kids can read because then they have access to books right now.
well, of
Then they
course.
have access to information on Kindle right now. Then they can start learning all kinds of perspectives right now. And that is doable. That is a possibility that if your parents can read or you have a friend who can read, they can teach you. I'm not saying it's easy for everybody, but is it possible to find somebody who can read to teach you?
Okay, but here's okay. So, but here's the problem. Here's the problem with that. Like, I understand that I mean, obviously, literacy is a huge thing. Literacy changed my life personally. You know what I mean? Like, I went from a person that couldn't read. You know what I mean? I'm dyslexic. I have all kinds of things going on. Like, I could not read. I was in my mid-teens before I learned to read. I am a person that currently reads over 150 books a year right now. Like, literacy changed my life, guaranteed. Everybody, and no, I'm not going to cheat and lie about it, but I listen to audiobooks at this point. I used to read a lot, but I'm super busy and I just don't have the time to sit down and read. I'm too busy editing photos or editing videos or doing a podcast or working or shooting or doing something. I'm always busy. And when I say shooting, I'm talking about cameras, by the way, just as an FYI. But I love audiobooks at this point, and I burn through them. I go through 3, 4 a week, you know, on some occasions, sometimes only one, but usually at least 2 every single week. You know what I mean? But sometimes more, sometimes whatever. But so I get it that yes, literacy is super important, super important. I totally agree. But that's why, once again, education, that's why I said education is the long game, right? It's not the short game. That is the long game, because education, it's not about it's not about changing the black community. It's not about changing the white community. It's about changing everything. That's why that's the long game. Because if all of a sudden, even if it took us 5, if it took us 10 years to do it, when the point where that education system changed, going forward, everything becomes different. And as people that can vote on what we want, we all need to have that be the number one priority. Like, education for the long game becomes everything. When you have people that are properly educated, can grow, I said this before, that, you know, like, I think it's 72 or 74% of the people applying for PhDs in the United States are foreign. They're not even from here. but because we don't prioritize education. And it's not even about we need a bunch of people with PhDs. It's about we need people to have good, sound educations. That makes all the things stop. It makes crime stop. It makes better jobs, everything improves from education. Everything. And yes, a lot of that starts in the home. But now, and I think this isn't a black issue. It's not a white issue. It's an American issue. It's an American issue to the fact of because like there are just as many and probably more just because of sheer numbers of the country. There are more people that are in BFE nowhere trailer park white community. There's probably more white illiterate people in just throughout when you take the country on a whole. It's going to bring everybody up. And when you pull back the curtain and you educate your population, what does that do? That changes how you view each other. We stop looking at things like skin color because we educate ourselves past that. We understand that is a ridiculous like issue to even have, and that gets solved with education. Education is the long game. But on the short game, yes, we need to be preaching more about being literate, but I think that whether you're in a trailer park or you're in the inner city or whatever, I think there's a lot of people that are just that they are generations deep of being illiterate. You know what I mean? And I think that you have these problems, and what do you do to fix them, right? What do you do when your community isn't about those books?
Well, this is the part where we're in a culture, period, in any culture. And if you've got a group of people who can't read, they're going to always be behind, no matter who it is. It doesn't matter if you're in a trailer park or if you're in a black community. It doesn't matter. If you can't read, you're missing out on years and years and years of fast forwarding your brain. That's the way that I look at it. When you're reading a book, you're watching somebody who put decades of thought and research and work into a book that you can read in, like you said, 2 a week or whatever it may be. You're fast forwarding your brain decades of thought that you would have had to figure it out or go through it. Now, if you're depriving yourself or you don't have access to being able to hear these things or listen to these things or read these things or hear it from yourself, you're missing out on decades of growth, which means you're going to be just behind, always behind. You will always be behind in a world that's competitive, in a world where you have to grow or you are left behind. You're going to be so far behind the curve that you'll never catch up because you just don't have the basic fundamental setup. This is why, you do look at some of the people who were successful. The Malcolm X story, who he was illiterate when he went into jail. He wasn't a good reader. And he step by step dissected the words and learned from the guys in prison how to read the dictionary. And he wrote out the dictionary. Like he wrote it out so he could learn to read. And then he read every damn book he could get his hands on. And it changed who he was as a person. Now, this is the part as far as personal accountability. What's up, Loki? This is the part of personal accountability for ourselves, of knowing that if my power comes from being able to fast forward my brain with the thoughts of people who have lived decades of information, I would be on a damn jungle adventure to find some wise sage who could teach me to read. I don't care if it's the lady across the street. I don't care if it's where it would have to be. I would find a way to do this. Now, if it's culturally uncool to read, this means we're missing out on a major part of your development, period. Now, this is a controllable in your lifetime that you can do. We don't have to wait for the long game of education. The reason this is important is we will have an entire generation of people who just there was no focus on this. But there are enough people in America that do read that somebody, if you have the drive and the determination to learn it, you can find somebody.
Okay, but here's the whole thing. I don't like that goes back to the PhD statistic that I gave. The fact is that education is not a focus of our country. Like our society, education is not a focus. If you want to talk about a focus of education, look to the Asians. As a community, they are the only ones, and that whether you be Chinese, Japanese, from India, you know what I mean? Like any of these, education is a huge, 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 huge cultural push, but it's not a huge cultural push in as far as like just mainstream America. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're white. I don't care whatever. The difference is and this is what I think that people aren't seeing a lot, is that it's not so much that it's that one community doesn't value it or is downplaying it more. It's the fact that one community has kind of a leg up because their school system is just better. There's where we're running into a problem. This is why, because if you go to a predominantly white community, the education system is just better.
There's a personal accountability that does have to be taken into account there, though. If there are black kids going to school and they're not even teaching how to read, like that would be a problem. Now, the thing is, they've shown though, is it's not necessarily black children, because the girls are doing well, but the boys are not doing well. And that's where it turns into, how do we fix that part? And there is a cultural thing there where it's not cool to study. And if you are going home to learn how to read, or you're going home to read, that's where those reverse shaming of like you acting white and stuff like that starts to come in, where it feels like you're betraying your own group. And they found it's mostly the young males who are running into this, because the females are doing well. But the males it's created a culture of, it's not cool to be a bookworm. It's not cool to study. But the girls are like, I don't care. I got education now. I'm going to take it. And like black women are kicking ass right now, but black guys are falling behind. And that's where that change needs to happen. And it's in the younger groups. It's in the youth right now. And if you really get into it, what's been changing over the last couple of decades is just the household structure. But young boys that's where the struggle is. That's, if you look at the numbers on it, it's the young boys who are having a hard time with literacy. Now, if we change over the narrative, and this is why even us having this conversation would have any relevance, if you're listening to this and you're like, I can identify that I'm having a hard time reading, or I never thought about reading being fast forwarding my brain is decades, I need to learn how to do this. It's for the people who would even listen to this. If you're listening to two people who are talking about what's going on with race in the country, or how can we do something better, and the white looking guy on the thing who's part Asian says, if you read, it fast forwards your brain, and learning this is the number one skill that'll make me have a fighting chance in this universe. Well, then now you have a choice to make. What do you have to do to make this happen? And even crazier is, you could download a damn app on your phone and it'll teach you how to read. Like, you have access all over the place.
Right. No, I agree with that. There, like, self-accountability is very important. And that's everybody. That's everybody. Like, I think, because once again, I think that if you listen to the narrative that's going on around, most people, if you just look at the headlines of what people are saying, and go onto YouTube and just putz around for an hour, and the things that people are saying are clearly people who they're saying what they're saying because of how they feel, not because they know, not because they've been educated in anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we look at the statistics and facts on you can watch all kinds of people talking about, even like, let's talk about like COVID going on right now, obviously, you know what I mean? And people talking all about that. So, and you hear the narratives that people are using to say why this is right and why this is wrong. And I'm not disputing whether or not how science is whether or not they've done a good job, whether or not anybody's done a good job during this whole thing. Not getting into that. But I'm more talking about all the people talking about it. 90% of the people talking about it they're coming to the conclusions that they are because they're not educated, because they don't understand how things actually work. Or if they read something, they don't know what they don't know how to interpret what they're reading to become informed, to come to an informed decision. It's all pandering, and you have a bunch of people pandering to you, and that happens because you're uneducated. That's where that comes from. Like, that actually reminds me, like, something else I wanted to say that really had, like, chaps my ass. Like, we're sitting here, we're listening to, like, every day, and I get in my vehicle to go off so I can go to work and stuff, and it's commercials that are completely targeted because it's the election season right now. And they say like, oh no, our current president is killing black people. Like, really? Like, I mean, the narrative, and it's not just about that one.
Fear.
It's not it's not just
fear-mongering.
It's not just about that one thing. It's like, ever since all this happened, I mean, it's the ever since everything with George Floyd happened a couple months ago, obviously I started a podcast because of it. You know what I mean? So I get it. I get trying to bring, but I started a podcast not because of George Floyd, but just because of the rhetoric going on that happened thereafter. I just felt I needed to step in and try my damnedest to make some kind of change. But what is irritating is, on all my services that I use, like, I'm big on Audible, right? I love Audible. It's a fantastic, and no, I'm not sponsored. I just love Audible, like, since forever. But anyways, like, as soon as this all happens, now there's a huge big section right on Audible's on their front page that was like, read a book by a black author. You know what I mean? Like, let's go and watch, and then Netflix, watch a black movie. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like Cardi B gets an interview with a prospective president. Like, all of these things are so pandering. It's infuriating. Like, it offends me when I see these things. It's like, were these things not important before? You know what I mean? Why are they all of a sudden important now? And I just feel like that, like, and I'm not even blaming, like, Audible or Netflix or any of that. I'm not saying that they're doing something wrong. I genuinely think that they're doing it. They're trying to help in the way that they can, right?
It seems like good intentions.
Right.
I think the problem is with that kind of thing, and this is where I still agree with, like, the people you see, like, of all people, Lil Wayne, or you look at Morgan Freeman, when they ask, like, what do you think about these special things like Black History Month, or if we segregate a whole group for black people, or BETs and all these things, if we create separation and show, like, here's special interest for this one thing, I think that most people wouldn't have a problem with that if there was a balance, but it's only this one thing. There isn't like a white only channel, or they do have Hispanic channel. They do have India channel. They do have almost everything except for white channel.
Okay, well,
Isn't that crazy? Like,
no, but I understand the method behind that, because if you look at because of old school, right? Old school, like, if you watched when I was growing up, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't see anybody famous black. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't see anybody famous Indian or Spanish or any of these things. I saw a bunch of white people playing Asians in movies. I saw white people. It was just white people, like, all the movies, all the shows, and then you'd have like a
smattering. How far back are you going here? Because, like, I'm a kid of the '80s, and there was black people in a whole bunch of stuff.
No, really. I mean, like, no. Even in the '80s, name me all the black TV shows. I can name 2. I'm sorry, 3. How many do you got?
I mean, what was it Family Matters? You had the Cosby Show.
Yeah.
Uh, then there was a Stanford and Son.
Yep. Those got
So,
funny enough. Those were the three.
yeah. Then you had Will Smith, and you had I mean, there's a lot of popularity.
But once again, now you got to take all of those things and you separate them based on timeline, right? They were all airing independently, and each one of those were famous. I mean, you can go into things like A Different World and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, because that was a drift off of the Cosby Show at the end of the day, right? So you have all these shows, but each one of those were popular and big in their own right. However, they were the only one. And every other show was just white when those shows were popular. So there wasn't a lot of overlap, or almost none, or there was only one or two networks that did it. And all the rest of the shows were all white. And once again, and I get it. So the point is, I'm not trying to draw any judgment as to that. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what it was, right? But that's the reason why we have the Hispanic network, not to mention because of the language gap, right?
Barrier.
Right. But I mean,
and I agree with the language barrier part. Here's the part where I agree with Morgan Freeman when he says, do you want a, White History Month? And he said, no, I don't want that. He's like, well, I'm Jewish. He's like, okay, do you want Jewish History Month? He's like, no, I don't want that. We don't need that. He's like, I don't want a Black History Month.
Right. No, I understand
that.
It's
American history. We are one people. He's like, I'll stop calling you a white guy. You stop calling me a black guy.
But
we're just guys.
Right, I get it. But there was the problem is that before you had things like Black History Month, right? That people, like little simple things. Like, you realize I was a teenager before I realized that a black dude was the first person to do open heart surgery. A black person was the one who made fucking peanut butter. You know what I mean? Like, these kind of things, like, I didn't, because you would think things like these information like that would be taught. But the problem is before things like Black History, before things like BET, these things weren't showcased. However, I didn't like that when they all of a sudden had like, like BET and they started doing like movies, right? I thought it was really, I thought it was really pandering that like they have like, because the second Star Wars movie had Billy D. Williams in it. So that got played on BET. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, you have some obscure, some side character in a movie, and now it's like, it was like, really, and I did see this. It was like Empire Strikes Back, starring Billy D. Williams. Starring Billy D. Williams. That's funny. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, like, they had that the Black Stars, just the Stars Network, and they did Black Stars. Like, and do you understand? Like, and anybody of color, I really hope that you, like, I really want you to think about this for a minute. Like, I understand why these things were done. However, how does this look to everyone else? You know what I mean? Like, it automatically puts a separation. Like, it builds in a separation. And we would be much greater served by pushing for inclusion rather than building these pieces of separation.
Yeah. If you treat somebody special, it'll start making everybody go like, all right, this group gets special treatment.
Right.
And when you start doing special treatment, people start acting differently. And that creates separation over and over again.
Right.
You're right. And it's that's the part where I disagree with it, is play all the stuff on whatever channel. And I'd be hard pressed to know how many people are like, hey, wait a second, this was a black show. Like, no, it's just a show that's on TV. Calm down.
Right. Right. And then, like, just on another note, when it comes to the whole movie thing, right, and pushing for inclusion, so you run into a few problems. Like, lately it's the Emmys and the Grammys and stuff like that, and they're pushing for. I
have not been watching them. I gotta be honest.
Well, it's not, and I haven't been watching either, but I do watch the news about it. You know what I mean? And they're pushing for more inclusion, and Hollywood just put this whole big inclusion document together that they're going to be using for the Grammys and stuff like that now. That they're really going to be doing, like, you have to have so many minorities, and there's all these different criteria that they've created, and you have to meet a certain 2 of these 5 or 10 criteria. I forget the exact things. I'll if I can find it, I'll actually put a link to it in the thing.
But then what is it? Because I believe it's good intention. But then what happens if they're like, all right, we hit our white people quota. You white people can't come in.
Well, see, now here's where I run into a problem with it, is that they do this, and, like, some people are saying that it was good, some people are saying that it's bad. You know what I mean? Like, and I get all of that. But the real problem is that now you run into a thing, and, like, I'm seeing people who won yesterday, right? And the movies and TV shows and everything and from the Emmys that actually won yesterday, I got to be honest, I didn't see any of them. Like, I don't watch things like that, not usually. You know what I mean? I pretty much watch Netflix. I watch crazy shows or whatever. But it makes me think, like, did the people that actually won, did they win because they were the best, or because right now the powers that be are scampering and trying to pacify everybody else? And so what's the balance? What's the way to figure it out? What's the way to create balance without pandering, with actually making it be the person who's getting it is the person who best deserves it, and you're not doing it just to try to be inclusive, because that's also a negative, right?
The inclusive trophy is the participation trophy.
Right. And
it starts making it a negative thing where, like, did you really win it because of your hard work? And some people probably did. I didn't watch it at all.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about on principle, because I can't say, like, anybody. I really honestly can't say that I saw anything that anybody won. Like, I have no idea.
Your principle is sound, though. Your principle is right. At what point does it become pandering to the point where we are separated even worse? Like, oh, well, I might not win, I'm white. Like, at what point does it start getting like, well, the minorities are probably going to win it because I can't win it?
Well, see, but we
changes the whole competition.
Well, we saw this where it wasn't even a black-white thing. We saw this with the Grammys last year, where the best picture went to Parasite, and Parasite is a South Korean film, and it got best picture.
I don't even know what that is. I watched a cartoon for that.
No.
This is a movie.
No, this is a movie, and it won best picture in the American.
Did you watch it?
No, I still haven't seen it. I
mean, I got to check it out. It's the best picture.
It got best, but there were people that were jumping up and down, and they were like, it should have been Joker.
The Joker was fantastic. I haven't seen Parasite,
they were like, in one of the articles I read, they were like, well, Joker was a movie about development and growth and the acting and all of these things, and then this is what somebody wrote about it. Like, how could this foreign movie, like, it didn't win best foreign picture, it won best picture, period. You know what I mean? Like, right off the rip, which is crazy. The first time that's ever happened, that a foreign film, it's not even in English, won best picture. But what was crazy,
I would try to have an opinion, but I got to watch this movie.
Because
it may just be the jam. So I don't know.
What they were saying, they were talking about all the things about the Joker, which I did go see. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I just went and saw that because I'm a superhero fan, and the Joker is like one of my favorite things of all time. But what was funny is that as they said it, as the person was saying that how great the Joker was, and they were like, well, then the author of the article was actually like, well, you clearly didn't watch Parasite, because it was all of those things times 10. You know, is what it was, what the argument was. So from what I heard, it was a great film, and it was one of those things I always meant to watch it, but it goes back to the whole thing of like that it goes back to the pandering thing. It's like, and that was on the heels of like MTV and they had the MTV Music Awards, and then you have a group like BTS. Are you familiar with them? BTS, another it's a Korean boy band is what it is, and they didn't even win an award for music last year. What's crazy about that is
that K-pop? Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's K-pop.
K-pop.
Yeah.
I know it's super popular.
Yeah. But what was crazy is BTS, like their video, like the video that had just come out, got like 1 billion views in like 48 hours. And they didn't even win an award. So everybody was like, what the shit? Like, so now all of a sudden, so that brings up the argument, like, and because I haven't seen Parasite, so I don't know for sure, but I'm like, but that's immediately what I thought of. They saw the backlash, and they had the backlash, the Grammys had the backlash the year before for not being inclusive enough, right? So, and then MTV just got slammed for not being inclusive enough, even though based off of numbers, they should have added. Did they put Parasite up at the top because they were pandering to the situation, because they were bowing down, or was it truly deserved? Right, you know what I mean?
But I'll watch it with you.
Right,
but if we watch it, this movie is really that, because the Joker was magnificent.
Right. No, it was. It was a great
10 times that.
Yeah,
I'll happily shut up about it.
Right,
no problem.
Right, you know what I mean?
I think this is where it turns into, like, because I mean, there is a different thing of saying a racial thing or a segregation thing or whatever things for other stuff. Like, if it's supposed to be like an American award show, like, then it would have to be the shows that were in America. Then I'd be fine with that, because I think Korea should have their own Korean award show.
Well, but everybody knows. But when it comes to movies and music, right? We pretty much lead everything. We're the largest consumers. We're the largest generators of content. All of these kind of things. But at the same time, all of our award ceremonies say best in the world.
Oh, well,
right.
See, now this is where
best picture of the year. You know, best song of the year. Best
picture and best that stuff can still be American stuff if they're doing an American award show.
Yeah, but it's
best one in America, fine.
Right.
If you're saying greatest movie in the world, well, now we open it up to stuff where, like, most people in this country are not going to watch French films and watching, Korean films. They won't be watching most.
But that's what it is. Most people hadn't even seen Parasite until that happened. Nobody had, they were like, how did that win? Nobody saw it. You know what I mean?
On this one, I wish I could say we both watched it, and if I'd have known about this, I'll watch it with you happily.
Right.
And then go like, no, the movie deserved that victory, or like this, I believe it was pandering. Well, but if we watched it, we'd know.
But it just it just goes back to my point, is that's what I immediately thought, right? You know, that I didn't think it was pandering. I just said, what if this is what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, and I don't want to take anything away from that movie. I'm not trying to. Like I said, I have not seen it, but I will watch it. If nothing else, because of this conversation. But normally, I just don't have a lot of time to sit down and watch a movie. And I'm pretty much.
Yeah, but we dug ourselves a hole here. We got to watch it now.
But I'm pretty much stuck in, like, if you can't shoot laser beams out of your eyes or bench press a truck, I usually don't go see it. I got to be perfectly
honest. Truck too. We're not talking about
not an S10. I want to see it like a dump truck.
But have cement in it.
Right. So you know what I mean? Like, but these are the kind of things that I think of, and I think of that when it comes to all kinds of stuff. When it comes to trying to find, and what is the proper balance? And that's the reason why, like, the BET Awards came up, right? Because there wasn't enough people getting enough people that they felt should have been nominated weren't being nominated or weren't winning. So they had to make these things like affirmative action. I think affirmative action was really good, and it was necessary when it was created. It came out but I think then the pendulum swung too far, and then it created a problem at some point. So, and that's what I'm worried about. It's how do you find that balance? How do you find that equality without that pandering? And I would say, I would just like, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. These are the kind of things. These are the kind of questions that I would love for somebody to comment on. Right? I would love to hear somebody else's idea. Like, Is there a part of this that we're not seeing? Something about any of this stuff that we're not understanding?
Yeah, I'll take a crack at it, at least before somebody else jumps
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
I still think that in order to find balance, we have to stop doing the separation. As much as people love their separation, you can still celebrate who you are. I would just say celebrate it as us, not just there's us and you. Like it is all of us. Because here's the way that I look at it, and I think this is where my goal would be: is the black people in America are not brought here to America. These are Americans just like me. Both of my neighbors are black, and they're my neighbors. They're just like me. We're all here. And so it's not we're separated. We're all on the same street. So I would look out for them just like I would anybody else. And I think that's where it's not, well, it's the black people and the white people. No, it's the neighbors on this street. And if we stop separating everything to make it so that we celebrate how different or separate the groups are, and just go, no, we're all celebrating everybody here together, then it stops making the narrative being just the black people or just the white people or just the Chinese people or just the Mexican people.
Well,
Like,
I agree, and I think that you find the group that I find it the most relevant with current situation, right, are the Irish, to be perfectly honest. And the reason being is because Irish people are just everywhere. They're everywhere. There's no like Irish land, you know what I mean, or Irish. I mean, I'm sure there are some Irish communities in the country, but
there's Ireland.
Well, I'm talking about in the U.S. So
okay.
I'm not. Oh, really? There's Irish people in Ireland? Like weird. Like no, but I mean, like, but the reason why I use them as an example is because we have like a big, like they have parades and to celebrate being Irish, but they're still mixed in. Like, I think it's okay to celebrate your culture and still just be a part of the whole. You know what I mean? I find, and it's not just, and you know what? And I think that it's all groups are guilty of this. And I think that we as Americans on a whole, right? We just need to stop that shit all the way around. Like, but I mean, at the same time, right? So everybody loves Chinatown or Mexican town. You know what I mean? Like, you go, there's a place you go to get great food, you know what I mean? Or whatever, right? Everybody loves that whole little aspect of things. But the problem is where is, like, and this is where it comes down to like the black community, right? Where's that? Where's that for the black community, right? Where is that piece for the black community? And I, like, once again, more things that I struggle with, things that I'm trying to figure out, and I don't have good answers for these things.
What do you mean? Like, where is it, like, predominantly the black community? Like,
where's the predominant thing for the black community to go get great food and
I mean, they got soul food and stuff in like downtown areas and stuff. I mean, there are if you say like, where is like the black people in the parts of town, like, you know exactly where to go. Like,
yeah. I mean, I know, like, it's not.
There is that community.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's no positive connotation to it.
Here's the part where I'm gonna have to say, you get to choose how your community works. Like, on this block, if people start doing crazy stuff, like, we do get to go, hey, listen, people on this block, let's all, if we see this people are trying to, like, people are going down the street hitting car windows and stuff, and so we all made it a point to like make it difficult to do that everybody on this block didn't matter color. These are dumb kids. So
right,
it wasn't a race thing. This is everybody now sees a problem happening here. We together are going to try and make this difficult to happen. And so it's those kinds of things where you get to choose how your community runs. Chinatown has a specific way that they do their things, and there'd be an underground version of it, and then there's the above ground, like, we want people to come here to make us more money. Right. So we're going to do this because it makes us more money. And now the black community is capable. Like, they of course, I believe they're fully capable.
Of course.
It's a decision that has to be made as a community. We need to make this more touristy because we want people coming here to get whatever it is that we're going to do that's marketable as we celebrate our contribution. It could be soul food. It could be, I've had soul food. It's delicious.
Well, yeah, of course.
Like,
That's
so
not.
if that's what it is, and we say like our Chinese restaurants as soul food restaurants, we make it so it's great to come here. That's what we do now. That's a choice that you make as a community. You can't have somebody else come in and tell black people how to run a soul food restaurant. Doesn't make any sense.
Right,
No, you decide we're going to, as a community, make stuff that's awesome to come here to do with us. That's what you do.
right.
And if you don't decide to do that,
that is a good thing that you said. You know what I mean? Like I really do believe that. I believe that like if the black community, like really at the end of the day, the black community, if they want their areas to be like if their areas were inviting to outside people, like I get it, and we can discuss all day, and I don't want to say this outright because I know I'm going to catch some grief from even saying this, but
whatever.
you know, like I totally understand why things were the way they were. I totally understand how it happened. Don't think that I don't know my history. I do. I understand what made it happen. But now, right now, like realize that a difference can be made, that you can weed out bad elements in your community. You have that power to weed out bad elements in your community. Like where my house was 2 years ago. Like if people were going through that neighborhood and doing bad things, the entire neighborhood would react against it. You know, like this whole narrative, like that no snitching and none of this, like that doesn't exist. You know, these aren't all a bunch of like gangs or mafioso. You know what I mean? Like if people are doing things that are wrong right in front of your house, you should say something about it. You have the ability to change things in your community and make it more inviting for other people to interact with your community. There's a reason why, like, it's amazing to go over to Mexican town here because the food is amazing. You're not going to have, there's not going to be any drama. There's not going to be any problems. Or if you want Arabic food, you know what I mean? Here in Michigan, we have a huge Arabic population, and the food is amazing. And you can go there and get food, and you're not going to run into any problems. I mean, a teenager might, have, because teenagers suck, but but that's with any community. It doesn't really matter. Teenagers are going to suck no matter where you are. But with
that's their job as a teenager.
That was my job.
That was their job.
Yeah,
make noise and be annoying. That's my job.
Right. That's what I did as a teenager for sure. But like the whole thing is, I really like, and it's hard for me to say something like this because I don't. It makes it sound like nobody in the black community is doing this, but I really believe that as a whole, if the black community works together, tries to find solutions together. Like, I get all of the bad things that happen. I get why things are the way they are, but it's only going to be with letting some of the old grudges go and working with everybody else that things are actually going to improve. And I'm not saying whether or not the grudges are justified. I'm not saying any of that. But if you really want to make changes are, and speaking of that, like, I'm trying to figure out something that I can do. Something I can do that's more than this. Something I can do on a physical level, right? Something I can do that will, because I don't want to go and dedicate my time and energy into somebody else's cause that I feel is some separation or some half-assed attempt, some bullshit attempt that doesn't really have any impact.
Well, I mean, that's perspective. So here you want me to give you an idea Like, because I'm
Sure.
an idea
Sure. And
guy.
I also want anybody else listening, I want to hear ideas. I'm really looking for something I can do to help. And this isn't about just the black community. This is about something about I want something to do about bringing the communities together. Something that we can do that's going to improve some aspect.
If it's going to be done, here's what actually would need to be done. We have to make a clear purpose. The reason that we're having this conversation is to move towards this. This is our noise. This is our why. And that's, you hear Simon Sinek over and over. You hear lots of people. What is your reason why you're doing it? Now, it can't just be like to try and get a middle ground, because that doesn't mean anything. It's a shotgun approach. It has to be like you said, a laser beam, silver bullet. It's got to be something where here's the reason why. And if we say this is a podcast that's designed for unity, we are trying to put us together. So this is a podcast of togetherness. This is a message of togetherness. And we're here to rally everyone together, because that's the only way we grow. If this is what we preach every time we get on, is our goal is together. That's what we do. If you say this and we build this and we move with purpose in the right way to say, it's not about what happened. It is going to take forgiveness. It is going to take awareness. It is going to take action. It is going to take us doing things together. If we start putting the plan clearly together to show here's the way we do it together, it knocks the bullshit off the edge. It knocks it out. It can't, there's no room for it in the plan.
Right.
Remember the thing that I read to you that I wrote? If you say, here's the plan, and you put it together, you had the first piece last week, and you said, we need awareness. It needs to be where people know. People know it. There's a problem. We see it. And people have to go, I do see it. I see the problem.
Right.
I'm with you, and it's bad. Then people have to go, I forgive what happened. I forgive you for it, and I forgive. So they go, okay, well, I'm sorry. And you're like, I accept your apology. We're good. We forgive. You acknowledge we're here. This now goes to acceptance. Once we accept each other and we go, now we're in this, now we can support each other. We move towards unity together. Once we have that support, now we put the support to a purpose. We put it to action. We start doing the rallies, or we start doing the protests in a way that actually has the unmet need defined, that we're trying to create a stronger system. We're trying to improve the things that were wrong, but this is exactly how we do it together. It's not just Black Lives Matter. It is really all of us matter, because Black Lives Matter is included in that. And this makes it so as one unit, we all fight to improve the system, period. It just needs to be improved. It's not make America great again. We're still working on making it great, but this is the steps that it needs to take. And then once we're doing that, now we're in the trenches together. Now we're locking arms, Black, white, Asian, Mexican, everybody. We're locking arms in unity, which creates connection. And that creates brotherhood, sisterhood. It makes it so you do love these people because you've gone through it. That's where the purpose has to be, for the message to be able to say, I can connect and resonate with this message. I listen to these guys because I know that their why is to connect and create unity and love for all of us. That's the point. The point isn't to say Black people. The point isn't to say white people. It's not left. It's not right. It's we're all in this, but we're not enemies.
Right.
We all want this to be better, period.
Right. Because I want education better for everybody. I want these things to be good for everyone. I want everybody to be awesome in their own thing. I just want people to stop fighting over something as stupid as race, of all the things.
But we got to be careful, man. There's poison, and you put poison in the pie, and it ruins it for everybody. I remember remember at Quicken Loans, there was my old boss when we were there. When he was hiring me, he said something important that's very relevant to what I'm about to say. He said, I don't just hire people on my team. It has to be somebody who's quality. You got to be good at this. Because he asked me a question. He said, what's your favorite ice cream? Like, what's your favorite food, period? What's your favorite food? Just pick a food you love.
Who, me?
Yes,
Oh,
you're the only person here.
oh, well, I didn't know. I thought you were still talking like
He
past
used the
tense.
analogy of
Right.
ice cream, but
Okay.
I'm just going to do something relatable.
Okay. So, what's my favorite food?
Pick your favorite food in the world.
Uh, uh, Meatloaf.
Okay, you
Love
love
it.
meatloaf.
I
Let's
do.
say they got the best ingredients in the planet together, the most like gold flake chipped whatever, best ingredients, best meatloaf,
Yep.
period.
Yep.
And then while they're making that all together, they say what we're going to do is take just one little scoop of dog shit and put that right in the meatloaf for you. And you watch them just mix dog shit into the meatloaf.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, fuck. Now, even if it's just a little bit of dog shit, you just watched them mix shit into the best meatloaf you could have had. And you're going to be like, well, do you still want to eat that meatloaf?
No, of course
Well,
not.
now you know it's dog shit meatloaf.
Right.
Even if it's the best ingredients, you just put dog shit in. And he said, that's what it's like if I hire the wrong person to be on my team. I have all really good ingredients, but if I put one piece of dog shit in there, it ruins the whole meatloaf. And so when it comes to that, if we've got the plan, but people want to use blame or they want to shame people, like that thing, that the video
Right.
you said where they wanted that the white people to get on their hands and knees and say you're sorry. Well, that creates a power differential. We're not together anymore. It's now power over, not power together, which means we don't connect anymore.
Right.
If we do hatred, if I say, I hate you, I hate the police, I hate you, I hate black people, I hate whatever. If you use hatred, it only creates separation, which means we don't have forgiveness.
Right.
We don't have support. We don't have acceptance. If you use revenge, revenge only causes pain. There is no recourse that works with revenge. It only makes pain. So if you say, we were oppressed, now I need to oppress you, so no, you know what that's like.
Right.
There won't be a connection. There won't be support. It's just more separation, and the hate goes on for years and decades longer.
Right.
If we disrespect each other, then that's going to create disdain. It means I don't respect you. You don't respect me. Well, then how are we supposed to ever love each other? It's not possible. If you use anger in any way, if you bring anger to the table, Marcus Aurelius says, if you use anger in any situation, it's worse than if you never showed up at all.
Right.
The problem becomes a bigger problem with your rage involved.
Yeah.
So you have to remove the poison. You can't put dog shit in the meatloaf. So if awareness and forgiveness, acceptance, support, purpose, action, connection, love, true, honest equality and unity is the purpose.
So what is it? What are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to start going to like rallies on both sides and start like just talking to people and just
the movement starts small, and the thing is the idea has to be defined. That's how all ideas work. Is it's just a spark. But we have to be clear if we're going to do something like that. But it has to be for something that's not right or left. It's something different. It's something that's middle. It's something that's center. It's something that's the whole.
Right.
And if we're talking about the fringes, this big middle piece, it has conservative views and it has liberal views. It's all of us.
Right.
There is balance. There is acceptance. There is understanding. There is disagreement.
Right.
And that is okay.
Right. I mean, because like I'm not a religious guy. You know what I mean? But I respect anybody who is. If that's your thing, I think that's great. Go ahead and do it. Enjoy yourself. That's fine. But I want to be respected that I don't. You know what I mean? I want to that's fine. Like I actually, I made really good friends over the last year and a half with a Muslim guy, which from Iraq, funny enough, and like he's one of the nicest, most awesome people I've ever known. Like I mean, like for real, and but I just think, we respect the fact that his belief structure is different than mine. Like we can coexist in the same place, and he can still go to his mosque and do his thing and pray his 5 times a day and all of that. And like I was actually working in his house, as a matter of fact, and like he would be like, "Oh, I gotta go. It's time for me to go pray." cool. Like no big deal. But because he was always like hanging out with me and stuff when I was over there. But you know, I just think that it's like everything needs to be like, it's okay to respect other people to be different and allow them to be different. And like, that's a good thing. Being different is fine. It's just about being able to coexist and still be cool along the way. And I think that's really kind of, and like I said, I pretty much want to leave it with that, I think, for today. But I really want, like, if anybody has any idea of something of what I should be doing, what I should physically be doing with the rest of, with parts of my time to make a difference. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing this obviously, and I'm talking about it, and Rick's here, and we're both talking about it and trying to, like, we spend a good portion of our time when we're not doing this messaging each other, him more than me, because he's like, I'm always like, I don't know, just, I'm not a great texter. I'm pretty bad at replying. But anyways, like, but we send messages back and forth, like trying to share perspectives and trying to work through things. And even before every one of these shows, we talk for sometimes 2 hours.
We talked for an hour and a half before we started this.
Yeah. Just working through different issues that we come up with, and so I'm trying to find something that we can do, that I can do, that would really make a difference on the ground level, right? Outside in the world, other than just my podcast.
I think that the answer for that is the same thing that we can all do. Keep personally developing and growing yourself. The open-mindedness opens up opportunity. There's a thing that I write about, especially when it comes to our belief systems, is one new piece of information changes your entire belief system. Correct. You know, and you've lived through it. That's true. Things that I remember you swearing, this would never, this is impossible in your belief system ever happen. And then when those things happen, you're like, that information is new. Right. All of my beliefs are different now because one new piece of information was added. Right. And it changed the whole entire structure of it. And that's how almost all things work. And if you ever close off the information, you'll never change your belief systems because you're never growing. Yeah, and so the one thing that you can do is, this is growth, because I do put things in your head that you weren't going to think about. You put things in my head I wasn't going to think about. Right. So we're growing. Us doing that is putting things in other people's heads in the future. Right. That helps them grow also. These conversations, people may not be catching on to this for another couple months, 6 months, a year, could be 3 years, could be episode 900 before they even catch on. Right. And they'll go back and catch these early episodes and go, that conversation I heard that they had changed a couple things in my belief system because I didn't know that information yet. Right. Right. So the only thing that we need to do is keep growing. You keep growing as human beings out there, if you're listening to this whenever, and that changes all of the things. It changes the things. So then it just turns into exposure at that point. Right. How much did you get the noise out to grow? And that would solve most of the problems. If people could see beyond themselves and their emotions and their feelings, they get the new information that changes the belief system that we actually could do this together and we're not separated. Right. Everything changes with one new piece of information. Right. Right. You just have to be open to it. There it is. There's our message today. Be open to change. Be open to listen. And I think if we do that, I think we'll all be a little better off. So with that being said, thanks you all for listening to us ramble for another hour and 33 minutes this time. It's an hour and 40 minutes, like our fucking thing. I don't know what it is. We're way faster today, though. 7 minutes.
Ooh, look at us. Look at us just shaving down time. And don't think I have actually heard people, like my sister in particular, so when she listens to this, she'll be saying 45 minutes. Keep it below 45 minutes. What am I supposed to do? Cut it off in the middle of a good conversation? Like, no, really?
She can just watch it in 45-minute chunks. It's fine.
Right, yeah.
Everyone's a choice.
Right. Watch it in 10-minute chunks. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be working on actually doing clips and stuff like that for Facebook and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So, always improving. But like I said, thanks for listening. Make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe. Comment. let us know what you think. Let us know. We asked some questions during this podcast. Let's do it. Help us make this better, and help us help you make a difference. And you guys have a good night.